Hello, welcome back. So in this part, we will solve a design example on isolated footing design. So this is the example that we have to solve. And in this, we have to design a square footing of uniform thickness for an axially loaded column. And the size of column is also provided here, which is 300 mm by 300 mm. And the column is supporting a load, which is 500 kilonewton. Also, the safe bearing capacity of soil is also provided here, which is 15 ton per meter square. And the material which we are using here is the concrete and steel. And the grade of concrete is M20 and steel is HYSD reinforcement, which is here FE415. So here various data is given to us, which will be required for designing the foundation. And in this, the size of column is given and the load which is supported by the column is also provided here. And beside this, safe bearing capacity of soil is also provided here in terms of the ton per meter square, 15 ton per meter square. So as you can see, the load here is in terms of kilonewton. We also need to convert this SBC in kilonewton per meter square. So to convert 15 ton into kilonewton, first we need to understand the unit conversion. We know that 1 kg is equals to 9.8 Newton, and in engineering calculation, sometimes we take it approximately equivalent to 10 Newton. And uh, we also know that 1 ton is equals to 1000 kg. And therefore, if we want to know how much kilonewton will be there in 1 ton, it will be around 10 kilonewton. So therefore 15 ton here will be 150 kilonewton per meter square. So the SBC becomes here 150 kilonewton per meter square. So now starting our example. So here our first step is to find out the size of footing. Now size of footing here means like we will be designing a square footing. So these are the sides of the footing which we are representing here as, because we are designing square footing, so both the side of the footing will be same. And in this we have the square column, so it will something like this. So here we need to find out this b dimension. So size of the footing, uh, it depends on the load, how much load is carried by the column, and also it depends on the bearing capacity of the soil. So we know that stress is equals to force upon area. Now, if we consider this area as our area of footing, and if we consider this stress as SBC, and if we consider this force as the load carried by the column, we can easily calculate the area of footing by using this relation. So here, first we need to know how much load will be coming on the foundation. So first load will be the load coming from the column. And here it is not mentioned in the question that self weight of column is to be calculated. So here we are assuming that self weight of column is including the load coming on the column, which is W, and which is 500 kilonewton. So this 500 kilonewton load is including the self weight of the column. Now self weight of footing is also to be, I mean, it is also need to be considered, because like this will be the foundation and the load will be coming from the column like this, and this is the soil where reaction will be occurring. So first we need to consider this load which is coming from the column, and also the self weight of the footing. Now right now we don't know the dimension of this footing, so therefore here we will assume that this self weight of footing will be approximately 10% of the load carried by the column, and this 10% of the load carried by the column will be 50 kilonewton. So therefore now the total load which is coming on the soil will be 550 kilonewton. So that is the load. Now here one more important thing that you have to consider, that in the design, I mean while calculating the area of footing, we consider the serviceability limit state, which means here the load factor will be 1. So therefore, the total load, which is say WU, so here WU will be 550 alone because the load factor in serviceability limit state is 1. So 550 is the load which will be coming on the foundation. So now we can easily calculate the area of footing, and area of footing is the total load divided by safe bearing capacity. So putting the value here, we get the area of footing as 367 square meter. Now this area we got from this relation, and now we know that our foundation will be square in plan. So therefore we can easily calculate the side of the square by using the relation. So we know that the side of square can be calculated as under root area, and area is already calculated. So putting the value here, we get the value of B as 1.915. So we will round off this value on the higher side because this is the minimum area required to carry this much load. So if we adopt the value higher than this, then we will be on the safer side. So adopting the footing size as 2 meter by 2 meter. So that concludes our step 1, in which we have now calculated the size of footing. Now, second step is to find out net soil pressure at ultimate load. So as you know that this is our column and it is resting on the foundation, and till now we have now decided what should be the size of foundation, which is 2 meter, 2 meter by 2 meter. Now as the load coming from the column like this, and against this load soil will offer some reaction. Soil will offer some reaction in the form of net upward pressure. So now when we calculate this net upward pressure, we generally represent this with the letter small p. So in this case, we calculate net upward pressure on ultimate load or limit state of collapse. Ultimate load. So the load which is coming here, say W. So W here will be multiplied with the load factor 1.5. So here it will be multiplied with 1.5. Why? Because we are calculating net upward pressure on extreme load. I mean, actual load is 550, but at limit state of collapse, we multiply this with the 1.5 factor. So at this extreme load, what will be the maximum net upward pressure that we are required to find out? So therefore, here the net upward pressure will be load coming from the column multiplied by with the load factor and divided by the area of footing provided. So you need to remember this, that in step 1, we will consider serviceability limit state and apply factor of safety, load factor as 1. And in step 2, while calculating the net soil pressure, we calculate this net soil pressure at ultimate load or limit state of collapse, in which we multiply the load coming from the column with 1.5. And also we only consider the load coming from the column. In this we don't consider the self weight of the footing, because in this case we assume the this system as the part of soil. So that is the process we follow to calculate the net soil pressure at ultimate load. So here load is 1.5 times of W divided by area of footing provided, and putting the value here, we get the soil pressure as 125 kilonewton per meter square. It is not 125, it will be 187.5. I have corrected this value on the next slide. So this is our correct value of the pressure in this case. So that completes our step 2. Now we have our step 3, and step 3 is effective depth calculation. And this effective depth calculation will be done on the basis of bending moment considerations. So here we are now required to find out the reinforcement will be something like this. So we are here required to find out how much D will be required to carry the load safely from the bending moment considerations. So while considering this bending moment consideration, first of all, we need to find out what will be the maximum bending moment in this footing. And in the last parts, I have discussed there that critical section for bending moment will be at the face of the column, which means either maximum bending moment will occur at this place or along this face it will occur. So critical section for maximum bending moment will be at the face of the column, and in the plan we can see like this. So this is our column plan and this is our footing plan, and the critical section for the bending moment will be passing along any of the face of the column. So considering, if we consider this face, then critical section will pass through this face like this, which means this critical section is dividing the footing into two parts. One is on the left hand side and the second one is on the right hand side. And even if we try to visualize in this manner also, say for example, this is our column. So here also, like, this is the reaction offered by the soil, which will be throughout the footing, and on the column the load is coming like this. So against this load, this footing will try to lift up like this. Similarly, in this phase also, it will something lift up like this. So therefore, the critical section is passing through the face of the column. Now, while calculating the bending moment, maximum bending moment at the critical section, we have to divide this footing into two parts. So now, if you see in this plan, this section has divided this footing into two parts. One is the left hand side and the second one is the RHS. Similarly here also, this one is the left hand side and this one is the right hand side. So generally we select the section, we have to select one of the section in this to calculate the bending moment, because as per bending moment definition, it says that bending moment at any section is the algebraic sum of moment of forces acting on either of the section. Now here either of the section means acting along one of the section. For example, if we have to find out bending moment at this critical section, so first we have to decide which section we are considering, whether we are considering LHS or RHS. So generally we select the section which will be having less number of forces so that our calculation will be less. So here if we consider LHS, we will be having only force in the form of net upward pressure. So here you can see this is the net upward pressure in this critical section. Now if we consider RHS, in that case we will be having two forces. One is in the form of net upward pressure, second in the form of downward force coming from the column. So therefore we will be having more calculation if we consider RHS. So here we will consider only LHS, which will be having only one force in the form of net upward pressure. So as per definition, bending moment is the algebraic sum of moment of forces, and here we have only one force, so moment of this force will be, so here bending moment will be force into perpendicular direction. So now we know that force is stress into area or pressure into area. So here the pressure is already given. Soil pressure here we have just calculated, which is 187.5. So it will be 187.5 multiplied by the area. Now area of what? Here area will be the left hand side part, because we have considered this part only. So this will be the area under consideration in LHS. So the area, this area width is B minus small b by 2. Now small b is the sides of the column and capital B is the sides of the footing. So here the width of this area will be b minus b by 2, and this one is this b value. So here the area becomes b multiplied by b minus b by 2. So that becomes our area. So pressure into area becomes the force now multiplied by the perpendicular distance. So here where will be the perpendicular distance? So perpendicular distance here will be the distance between the critical section and the point where whole force will be concentrated. So this force under this area will be, okay, I think I should erase some of the part here. So this is our area under consideration, and the force under this area will concentrate at the point where diagonals will meet. So this will be the point of concentration of the force. Total force will concentrate at here, at this point. So the perpendicular distance will be between this point and the critical section. So this becomes this divided by 2. So ultimately, perpendicular distance becomes b minus b by 4. So that becomes the perpendicular distance. So that becomes the relation to calculate the bending moment at critical section. So whether we calculate bending moment along this face or along this face or along this face or along this face, the value of bending moment will be same. Why? Because it is a square footing. So bending moment along all four faces will be same. But in case of rectangular beam, it will be different. Along shorter span, it will be different. Along longer span, it will be different. So in case of rectangular beam, we generally use to calculate bending moment along both the faces, and we take higher bending moment for calculating the effective depth in case of rectangular beam. But here the bending moment will be same for all four faces. So here I have already done the calculation of bending moment. So the relation I have just derived how this relation comes. So putting the value here, we get the maximum bending moment at the critical section as 135.46. So now we have to find out depth required for this much bending moment. So we can easily calculate the depth by using this relation. Well, this formula may be new to you, but it is not actually new. I will explain this. In this, we have D as D required, M as the maximum bending moment, and B as the width of footing. Here, the new term is R limiting. Now, what is R limiting? For this, I will show you that in the IS code. So going to the IS code first. So in this IS code, we have this annexure G, and we generally follow this annexure G to find out the moment of resistance of rectangular, under reinforced section or the balanced section. So we know that the formula under this section, this formula is used for the balanced section. Now, can we rearrange this formula like this? We can easily write that mu limiting by b into d square is equals to r limiting. Now, what is this r limiting? In this formula, if I take this value on the LHS, then the remaining value will be 0.36 xu max by d, 1 minus 0.42 xu max by d. Now, if we have the grade of concrete and if we have the grade of steel, so we can easily put the value. So for Fe415, xu max by d is 0.48. Here also putting 0.48 in place of xu max by d. Then this value will be around 0.1389 FCK. So the whole value will be converted into 0.1389 FCK. So this 0.1389 FCK is actually the R limiting. So using this relation, we can easily calculate the value of D. We are already using this practice in the previous lectures, but here I have just changed whole this content into R limiting. So now again going to the slide. So there we will see, yes. So here putting the value of R limiting as 0.1389 FCK, and we know that we are using M20 grade of concrete, so FCK value will be 20, and B value, sorry, this will be capital B actually, this will be capital B, and B value is 2000, which is actually the side of the footing. So here calculating this, we get the D required for bending moment consideration as 156.65, and rounding of this value to the higher side, we get the thickness of footing for 160 mm. So here we can say that to resist the bending moment effectively, we need 160 mm thickness of the foundation. But we also need to check this depth for other failure criteria of footing also, and those other criteria are one-way shear and two-way shear. So now we have just calculated this value for bending moment consideration, but we will check this depth for uh, one-way shear first, and after that we will check that for two-way shear. So now moving to the next step, we have to now check D for one-way shear. Now for D, for this D to be safe under one-way shear, we have to satisfy a condition. And what is that condition? That condition is uh, in one-way shear, we generally calculate the shear force, and shear force per unit area of cross section is called nominal shear stress. So in this case, we have to satisfy this condition that nominal shear stress should be less than or equals to K into tau C. Now, what is this K into tau C? K into tau C is basically the permissible shear strength of concrete. So, and tau V is the nominal shear stress that is caused because of the external load. So stress caused because of the external load should be less than permissible strength of the concrete. So if this condition is satisfied, then we say that this D will be safe. If the condition is not satisfied, then we say that D is not sufficient for one-way shear criteria, and in that case we have to revise the D for one-way shear criteria. So that is the condition that we have to satisfy. So here first we will calculate tau V. Now we know that tau V is VU upon B into D. So it means we first need to find out VU in this case. So now VU is called the maximum shear force. Now where this maximum shear force will occur in the footing, so that we have already discussed in the previous part, that critical section for maximum shear force in the isolated footing will be located at a distance D from the face of column. So in this diagram also you can see this is the column and this is the footing plane, and this green line is actually showing the critical section for the one-way shear. I mean one-way shear critical section. So maximum shear force will occur at D distance from the face of the column. So either we have this section along this face, or along this face, or along this face, it will be same. So we will only consider one of the face, and we have to find out shear force uh, at this section. So like bending moment, here also we have, I mean this critical section has divided the area into two parts. One is the LHS and the second one is the RHS. So as per definition of shear force, it is the algebraic sum of vertical forces on either section. Now here either section is either we take LHS or we take RHS. So here also we need to consider only one section. So here again we will consider that section which will be having less number of forces, so that our calculation will be less. So here also, if we consider LHS, so we will be having only upward net upward pressure in the form of force. While if we consider RHS, in this case, we will be having force coming from the column, downward force coming from the column, and upward force offered by the soil. So if we consider RHS, we will be having two forces. If we consider LHS, we will be having only one force. Even in the section, if you look at the section, like this force is coming, and critical section for shear is say at D distance. So on LHS, you can see only upward force is there, but on the RHS, say this is the RHS side. So on the RHS, we have this upward force and as well as this downward force. So we have to find algebraic sum of this vertical force to calculate the shear force. So here again, we are considering the LHS part only. Now to find out the force under LHS, we have only one force. So therefore, we have to find out the magnitude of the force at LHS. So in LHS, the area under consideration is hatched with the green lines. So here, to find out the value of VU, it will be, I mean, basically it is a force. So force is stress or pressure into area. So again, we are given pressure already. We have already calculated the value of P, net upward pressure, multiplied by the area under consideration. So area under consideration is having this width and this width. So this width is B and this width is B minus B minus, I mean B minus B by 2 and whole minus D. So this is how we can calculate the shear force in this case. So putting the value here in this, we get the VU value. So again, I have already done this calculation. So showing you the relation. Yes, so this is the relation for VU, and putting all the values here, we get the value of VU as 258.75 kilonewton. So this is the shear force that is acting at this critical section. So now we got the value of VU. We can easily calculate the value of nominal shear stress now, which is VU upon BD. And here B is the capital B, which is showing the width of footing. And D is the depth we have calculated in the previous step as per bending moment consideration. So putting all the values here, we get the value of tau V as 0.80 Newton per mm square. So now one of the part we have calculated. Now we have to find out permissible strength of the concrete, which is K into tau C. Now permissible shear stress is given by K into tau C. So here we have to find out K value and tau C value. Now this K value is actually dependent on the overall thickness or overall depth of the foundation. Now, before we discuss about the overall depth, first I will show you this table, which is at this clause number 5.2.1.1. So I will show you this on the IS code. So here you can see this is the clause number 5.2.1.1. And in this it says, for solid slab, the permissible shear stress in concrete shall be K into tau C. So our foundation is just like a solid slab, and the permissible shear stress or permissible shear strength of the slab will be K into tau C. Now here K is dependent on the overall depth of the slab, or in our case, overall depth of the footing. So if the value of K is 300 or less than 300, the value is 1 or more than 1. If the value of depth is more than 300, then K value will be 1. So here now we have to first find out the overall depth. So for overall depth, again going to the slide. For overall depth, we need to find out the clear cover, what will be the clear cover, and also we need to assume the diameter of reinforcement also. So here first we will assume the diameter of reinforcement as 12 mm dia, which means we will be providing 12 mm dia bar along both the side of the footing. So like if this is the footing, so we will provide bar 12 mm bar along the along this side and 12 mm dia bar along this side. So we are assuming 12 mm dia bar in each layer. And also I have discussed this in the previous parts that minimum clear cover for foundation is to be taken as 50 mm. So taking clear cover as 50 mm, considering dia of bar as 12 mm, we can easily work out the overall depth now. And overall depth here will be, sorry, this will be 160 mm. So D is equals to 160 mm, and here 160 is the effective depth plus clear cover plus half of the dia of the bar. So that gives us D value, and adding that we have the D value as 216, and for the sake of convenience we will round off this value to 225. And now for this overall depth we will now try to find out what is the value of K. So again going to the IS code to see the value of K for 225. So here you can see uh, for overall depth of 225 we have the value of K as 1.15. So now we have got one of the component. Now we now have to find out the value of tau C. So from table we have now K as 1.15. So in this term we are able to find out K value. Now we will find out tau C. And for tau C we know that we need the percentage of steel, because tau C is dependent on the percentage of steel. And for that we have to calculate area of steel first. So first we have to calculate area of steel, and then only we will be able to find out percentage of steel. So we can find out AST by using the relation, this one, and putting all the values here. Mu value we have already calculated, which is 135, and in this all the values are known. D will be the effective depth we have calculated as 160 mm, and here the B value will be the width of foundation. So this will actually be capital B. So putting all the values in this, the only unknown value is AST. So this equation will give us quadratic equation, and ultimately the value of AST is calculated as 2853.85 mm square. So now we can find out the percentage of steel as AST upon BD whole multiplied by 100. So here AST is this one, and B is actually the it is actually capital B, which is the width of footing, which is 2000 mm, and D is the uh, effective depth, which is 160 mm. So percentage of reinforcement here is 0.89%, and here again for the sake of convenience we are assuming this percentage as equivalent to 1%. And now referring to the table to calculate the tau C value, we have, I mean, if we refer table 19, we can easily calculate the value of tau C for M20 grade of concrete, and which is 0.62 Newton per mm square. So now we now have the value of K, we have the value of tau C. Putting all the values, we get the permissible shear stress or shear strength of the concrete as 0.71. Now we know that tau V is 0.8 and permissible shear strength is 0.71, which means that nominal shear stress is higher than K into tau C, which means D is not sufficient. Our condition is not satisfied, so therefore we conclude that D is not sufficient and therefore is to be revised. So we have to revise this D for one-way shear criteria. So now we will use the limiting condition. And what is the limiting condition? Limiting condition is tau V should be less than or equals to K into tau C. So that is our limiting condition. So in this value is fixed. We can change this value, and we know that tau V is VU upon BD. Now B is fixed. Here only thing which will be revised is the D. So limiting condition is K into tau C should be less than or equals to tau V, And now here elaborating it, tau v is the vu upon b. B here will be again capital B, and D is considered as D revised. So here we know the value of VU, we know the value of B as 2000. The only thing which we have to find out is D revised. So this is the RHS, this is the LHS. So calculating it, we get the D revised as 182.20. So as per bending moment consideration is what it was 160. It is not sufficient for one-way shear. So as per one-way shear, the new D value is 182. And again, we have round off this value to higher side, which is 190 mm. So now onwards, we will be using this value. Now, but we don't know whether this value will be sufficient for the next criteria or not. And next criteria is we now have to check this D for the two-way shear criteria. So if it is passed in two-way shear criteria, then it will be the final value. If it is not passed in two-way shear criteria, we again have to revise this D. So now again moving to the next step, and next step is now checking the D for two-way shear. Two-way shear is also known as punching shear because in this column can punch through the foundation if the depth is insufficient. So we know that this shear, I mean this punching shear is uh, we know the critical section of punching shear, and it is at d by 2 distance. Sorry, it is at d by 2 distance from the periphery of the column, and we have already covered this in the previous part. So uh, this d by 2 can be shown in the diagram like this. So this is our foundation and this is our column, and the critical section for two-way shear will be at d by 2 distance from the periphery. So this green dotted line is actually showing the critical section of punching shear, which means punching can occur along this dotted line. So that is our critical section, and which means maximum shear force for punching phenomena will occur along this dotted line. So now we have to find out maximum shear force at this dotted line. But before that, we will see what is the limiting condition, or in other way, uh, in what manner we will say that D is safe in punching shear criteria. So in this case also, we again have to have tau v, which means again we call it nominal shear stress, but here for two-way shear, I am expressing this as tau v dash. So tau v dash in this case should be less than or equals to the permissible punching shear strength of the concrete, which is Ks into tau c dash. So here K becomes Ks, tau c becomes tau c dash for two-way shear. And their calculation is also different for one-way shear because in this we calculate it differently. So here first we will try to find out tau v, and tau v as usual it will be dependent on the shear force. So here we have to find out first the maximum shear force which will be occurring at critical section. So in case of two-way shear, maximum shear force will occur at along this dotted line, this green dotted line. Now to calculate the shear force, till now in the previous two cases we used to have critical section, and that critical section used to divide the whole area of footing into two parts. One is the LHS and the second one is the RHS. But here, in this case, the critical section again have divided the footing into two parts. One is inside of this dotted line, outside of this dotted line. So here again, we have to divide, I mean, we have to select which area is to be selected. Either we select the outside green dotted line area or inside green dotted line area. So either we select this area or we select the area inside green dotted square. The width of this green dotted square is, it will be B plus D. D is D by 2 from this side and D by 2 from this side. So now we have to select which area is to be selected, whether we select the outside area or inside area of this square. Inside area of this square will be this one. Now in the inside, you see, we will be having two forces. One force which will be coming from the column downward, and the second force which will be coming from the upward. So if we try to draw the section in this case, if we try to draw the section in this case, it will, so force coming from the column like this, and this is the critical section from both sides. So either we consider section 1 or the area shown as 2. So I am marking this as area 1 and this as area 2. So which area is to be selected? Now this will be the net upward pressure coming from the soil, which is P. So now if we select area 1, so you can see in area 1, we will be having net upward pressure and also downward force. So here we will be having two forces to calculate. But if we consider area 2, here we will be having only one force, and which will be net upward pressure. So ultimately, what we will be doing is we will select the area outside of this green square. So in this area, we will be having only, so I'm just hatching this area which we will be under consideration for our case. So now shear force at this hatched area, which I'm marking as 2. So here shear force will be, I'm expressing this shear force as VU dash. So here it will be again stress into area, because we have only one force. So stress is basically the pressure, net upward pressure, and what is the area? So we have to find out area of this hatched portion. So it will be area of total footing, which will be B square minus area of this green square, which will be B plus D whole square. So that becomes our area multiplied by pressure. So that gives us the punching shear force. So I have already done this calculation. So looking at this calculation, we have VU as this, and solving this, we get the VU value as 749.75, and as per clause, now we will move to this clause. As per this clause, first we will find out tau V dash, and tau V dash value will be VU dash upon B naught into D. Now this formula is already given in this clause. If you refer to this clause, you will find the formula VU dash upon B naught into D. Now here, what is the meaning of this B naught? B naught is actually the length of critical section. So here we have the length of critical section in the form of square. So length will be like this, plus this, plus this, plus this. So which means the perimeter of this square. So B naught will actually be 4 into B plus D. So this is how we can calculate the value of B naught. So B naught is 4 into B plus D, which is the length of periphery, and putting all the values here, we get the B naught value as 1960, and D is the D revised, which we have revised in the previous step, which is 190, and VU we have just calculated, which is 749.75. So putting the value here in this relation, 749.75 into 10 raised to power 3, and these two values are also in mm. So we get the value of tau v dash as 2.01 Newton per mm square. Now, as per condition, tau v dash should be less than or equals to Ks into tau c. Now, what is Ks and what is tau c dash? How do we find out it? Now, for finding this, we refer to this clause. We refer to this clause to find out the value of Ks and to find out the value of tau c dash. So first we will see this clause, and there I will show you the formula to calculate Ks value and to calculate the tau c dash value. And then we will again come back to this. So showing you the code. So here you can see this is the clause 31.6.2.1, and here it is showing the formula for nominal shear stress, which is V upon B naught into D. And here V is basically we are representing as VU dash. So this is how we can use this formula to calculate the value of tau V dash. Now to calculate the value of Ks into tau C. So referring to this clause 31.6.3.1. So here it says uh, shear stress at critical section shall not exceed Ks into tau C. So this we can calculate by going to the next page. Here we will find out the formula for Ks. So Ks is 0.5 plus beta C. And it says that this value should not be greater than 1. So here it says it should not be greater than 1. And beta C is basically the ratio of short side of the column to the long side of the column. So here we have actually the square column. So therefore, if we consider this as short, then this will also be short. So therefore, the ratio in our case will be 1. And if we put the value of beta C as 1, then it becomes 1.5. But here it says it should not be greater than 1, which means Ks value will be 1. And the value of tau C here is 0.25 into FCK and 0.16 into FCK in root. So for if we are using limit state method, then we prefer this formula. If we are using working stress method, we take this formula. So here in our case, tau C will be 0.25 into under root FCK, and FCK is the 28 days characteristic strength of the concrete. So putting the value, we will be able to get the value of tau C. So again, going to the slide. So here Ks value is 1. So tau C dash value is 0.25 into under root FCK. Putting the value, we get tau C dash as 1.118 Newton per mm square. Ks into tau C dash is 0.5 plus beta C into tau C dash. And here it is 1.5, which is restricted to 1, as I have shown you in the IS code. And therefore, Ks into tau C dash becomes 1 into 0.25 under root 20, and ultimately gives us the value of 1.18. So here, now we have to compare this with tau V dash. We know that tau V dash value is 2.01 Newton per mm square. So here it is clear that Ks into tau C dash is less than tau V dash, and it means the condition is not satisfied, and it means that the depth of the foundation we have calculated in the previous step is not sufficient for punching shear criteria, and therefore we again have to revise the depth. So as this condition is not satisfied, we have to use limiting condition to revise the D value. And now in two-way shear, what is the limiting condition? Ks into tau C should be equals to tau V dash. I mean, it should be less than or equals to tau V dash. So equating both the term, we get, I mean, this is fixed. It will not be changed. This value is fixed. B naught is fixed. Only thing which can be changed is D revise. So again, so putting the value, we get the value of D revised as 341. So this is the final value of D, and we take this as on the round off this value to the higher side, which is 350. So which means 350 mm depth is required, and this depth will be sufficient for one-way shear, for bending moment, and for two-way shear as well. So the final effective depth is 350. And ultimately, we can say that the depth of foundation is actually governed by two-way shear, because this is the critical criteria which actually governs the depth. Now, overall depth can also be calculated, which is 350 plus half of the die of bar and clear cover. So ultimately, we get 406. Again, round off this value to the higher side. So ultimately, overall depth of the foundation is 410 mm. Now, because we have to find foundation, we have to find out reinforcement also. So for both layer, we have to find out effective depth for the bottom layer and for the top layer. So effective depth for bottom layer will be 354 and for top layer it will be 342. How do we calculate it? So this 354 is the normal effective depth, which is calculated from the center of the bottom bar to the topmost layer, which is 354 calculated by this relation. And for effective depth for the top layer, we calculate or we measure it from the center of top layer to the topmost fiber of the footing, which is 352. So we use these two different depth to calculate the area of steel. Now, before we calculate the area of steel, we first have to check the size of the footing, which is 2 meter by 2 meter. We have to check whether this size is sufficient or not. Now, if it is sufficient, we will actually find out actual bearing pressure at the foundation, which we will refer as Q act. And for this size of footing, if it is to be safe, then this value should be less than SBC. If this condition is satisfied, then we say that this footing size is safe. Otherwise, we have to revise it. Now, I will try to show that using the diagram also. Say, for example, this is our foundation and this is our footing. Now, for example, this is the ground level. This is the ground level. And this is the width of footing. And suppose the depth of foundation from the ground level, it is 1.5 meter. And this is the thickness of the foundation, which we have just calculated, which is 0.41 meter. And the remaining height, this one is, if it is 0.41, then it will be 1.5 minus 0.41, and which will actually be 1.09 meter. Now, actually, in this case, as we know that this is the pressure offered by the soil, and the actual pressure, if we refer this as Q actual, what will be the actual pressure because of the load coming from the column, and also in this area there will be the soil. So because of the weight of the soil, which is directly impacting on the foundation, and at the same time this foundation is the weight of this foundation is also resting on the soil. So ultimately, pressure due to this load, pressure due to soil, pressure due to foundation. So we actually have to find out this QH. So this Q actual will be the sum of pressure due to this load coming from the column, pressure due to this soil or weight of this soil, and weight of this footing. So total will be the actual pressure which will be offered by the soil against the load, against these three load. So in the calculation, if we, to find out the weight of soil, we need the density of soil, say assuming the density of soil as 18 kilonewton per meter cube, And we also need the density of RCC. So assuming the density of RCC as 25 kilonewton per meter cube. So now, ultimately, Q actual, how do we find out Q actual? So Q actual will be load due to the column, I mean pressure caused due to the load coming from the column. So the load on the column is actually 500 and area of footing is 2 by 2 plus weight of the soil. Weight of the soil is uh, weight of the soil per unit area. So unit area is this one and depth of the soil is 1.09. 1.09. So that becomes the volume of soil in unit area multiplied by density of soil. So that is 18 plus weight of the footing. So weight of the footing is uh, again weight of the footing in unit area. So unit area is 1 into 1 into the depth of footing is 0.41 multiplied by density of concrete. So this will be the actual bearing pressure. I mean actual pressure on the soil, and this pressure should be less than SBC. Then only we will say that the size of the footing is safe. If it is not less than SBC, in that case we have to revise the area. Now, why we are doing this now? Because we didn't know what is the depth of foundation earlier. So now we know what is the final depth of foundation. Then only we will be able to check this. So I have already done this calculation. So I will be showing you this. So Q actual is 154.87 by calculating this. And it is actually higher than SBC, which is 150 kilonewton per meter square. So that is the bearing capacity of soil, and actual bearing pressure is higher than that, which means the foundation size is not safe. The size we are providing in the foundation, it is not safe. So ultimately we have to revise this size. 2 by 2 is not safe, and therefore now say if we increase the size, say if we take 2.25, if we increase 2.25 by 2.25 and again do the same calculation, so this value will be replaced by 2.25 by 2.25 and again doing the calculation, we get the value of Q actual as 128.68. And now you can see it is less than SBC. We say that this size is sufficient. So the final size of the footing is 2.25. So that is our final size of the footing. Now moving to the next step, here we will now find out the reinforcement. Reinforcement will be along both the sides of the footing. So first we will calculate the bottom reinforcement. For bottom reinforcement, using this relation, we know already the bending moment. We know all the values already. Here small b will actually be capital B, which is the width of footing. So here we will put the bottom D bottom, which is 354. And solving this, we get the value of AST bottom as 1395. We can convert this area into number of bars by using this formula, AST bottom divided by area of cross section of 1 bar. So we already know the dia of bar, which is 12 mm. Putting the value, we get the number of bars as 12.34. So we will round off this value to higher side, which is 30 number of bars. So ultimately, bottom reinforcement will have 30 number of bars. Similarly, we will have, in the similar way, we can calculate for AST top also by using the same relation. But in that relation, we will simply change the value of D top, again showing you the same. We will simply using the same this relation. The only change will be D top, and this will be named as AST top. So using the same relation, we can calculate AST top, and the final value of AST top is 1465.10 mm square. And finding the number of bars, it is 12.96, which is approximately equals to 13. So in both the direction, we will provide same number of bars, which is 30 number of bars. So now final step is reinforcement sketch, which is there. So this is the cross section of the footing. These are the reinforcement of column. So we are not responsible for calculating reinforcement in this lecture. We are only responsible to calculate this foundation. So this foundation is provided like this and like this. So clear cover is 50 mm. This is the overall depth, and section for one-way shear, section for two-way shear, section for moment, critical section. So all the details are available here, and effective depth is 354 in this case, and the reinforcement is 30 number of bars, 12 mm, I mean 30 number of bars, 12 mm dia, both ways, means in both the direction. So that is the final sketch. So thank you. We will continue our discussion in the next lecture.